Professor, sorry, I believe you're muted. I can't hear you.
Thank you.
There we go.
Wasn't that an impressive sight? Whoever gave me the heads up, thank you. Here I am going on and on with these learned comments, and you can't even hear me.
Oh, I thought you were on a phone call. That's why I just didn't say anything.
Thank you. Well, let me start again. This is embarrassing. Um, Welcome to Class 3 of Business 493 Personal Money Management, our halfway point of the course. My name is Professor Hasse, and our topic tonight is investments. Probably the one class of the 5 where you really can maybe get something out of as far as the future. Understanding what an investment is, what's it for, how does it work, and that sort of thing. But before we get into the overall lecture of the class, we'll go over assignment 2, the portfolio work of assignment 2, and get us ready for assignment number 3, which will be posted to the Blackboard in the 7 o'clock hour this evening, and it will be due next Tuesday night, July 14th. So that's where we are, and I hope you're all well and you had a good 4th of July encampment and beginning to hopefully count the days where this all will be over, but I wouldn't hold your breath with the knuckleheads we have running this place. Who knows? Okay. This is a stock certificate for the Disney company. Kind of fun. But it's not fun behind the numbers and behind the corporate finance that exists behind this stock certificate. Disney is a major American corporation owning cable companies, movie distribution, production facilities, cruise lines, television stations, radio stations, amongst even other things. It's a major American corporation. About 55% of their company is capitalized by the issuance of these stock certificates. Investors like you and I, like insurance company, pension funds, other corporations, banks, investment banks, all buy stock in Disney. And why do we all buy stock in Disney? Because we want to make money. Cash. We want to make money 2 ways. By Disney giving us a dividend check every 3 months or so, and by the stock price in Disney to go up. It's easy, though, to get the money from the dividend. They send you a check every quarter. But in order to get the big money with the stock price going up, you got to sell the stock to get it. And that goes about in defining the nature of stocks. It's the future. Your expectations for ever how long. It could be 30 years when you retire. It could be next year. If you're a day trader, it could be tomorrow. But its stock is determined by your expectations on how long you plan on holding the stock and selling it and then getting the cash for that sale. Some of us can wait a long time. Others of us have to wait or can't wait and need to sell it right away. That's why we put money into an IRA or a 401k. That's got a longer term association with it. We'll sell that when it comes time to retire, or when we want to buy a house, or we want to help pay for our children or myself to go to college. Stock is an interesting animal because you are an owner of the company. You are an owner. And being an owner, you have rights. You have rights to sit in on investor meetings. You have rights to give a dividend check. You have a right to vote for the board of directors of Disney. It's kind of a cool thing. But at the same time, it's a risk. It's a risk. you could lose everything. All right. Now with Disney, that's highly unlikely, but don't tell that to General Motors stockholders in 2007 when General Motors, which is like Amazon of today, went bankrupt. It can't happen. So there's risk with stock. You could lose everything. The stock price will go down. You won't get a dividend. So part of the investment in stock is understanding the risk. Oh, it's cool to go to family barbecues or to a cocktail party and say, hey, what have you been up to lately, Rick? I bought Disney. I am an owner of Disney. Wow. You're an owner of Disney? Wow. It might sound cool, but there's some danger with that statement. Danger of not paying attention how the company is doing by reading their financials or understanding the reports of the company from analysts. The danger of being sucked into that coolness and not really watching how the company is performing. And the danger of letting it go for years and years, and when you're not really tracking it, is it really providing value to your future expectations of return? Stock is a lot of work. Yes, we pay people to watch it. Yes, we take Professor Hassey's courses, so it makes it a little bit easier to understand it, but it's still a lot of work to keep track of it all. Then there's the other major investment that we are involved in, and it's right here. If I can see it. Here it is. A bond. A bond. What's a bond? Where a stock, you are an owner. A bond, you are a lender. You lend your money to another company or to the government or to the city of Laverne or the city of Claremont or the county of Los Angeles or the state of California. Bonds are in denominations of $1,000. If you individually want to buy a bond and invest in a bond, you're lending somebody $1,000. Can't buy them in smaller amounts. Yes, you can get little savings of bonds for $25, but those aren't really worth talking about. $1,000. So where are most of our investment in bonds? They're in mutual funds, where we have brokers and managers invest our money in bonds with a group of other people. There's IRAs, there's mutual funds, there's ETFs, all invested in bond funds that we're a member of. In our 401k, our money managers invest in bond funds. But a bond is an obligation to pay you over time interest and the maturity at principal. The interest is called the coupon. Here's a $1,000 Pennzoil bond. Pennzoil is an oil company. At 5.25%. So that means every year you get 5.25% of $1,000. That's roughly about $50.25. So every year, Pennzoil, as long as you own this bond, will give you a check for $50.25. Then when it's due, they'll pay you the $1,000. Now you can take the risk of going into the market and trying to sell that bond before maturity, but your risk is the market and how interest rates have changed over time. We're not going to get too much into that calculation. If any of you go on to take Business Finance 330, you'll see a lot of that. But the cardinal rule in bond investment is if interest rates go up in the market, your bond price goes down. And if interest rates in the market go down, your bond prices go up. But you don't have to worry too much about that. But this is the cool thing about a bond, that why a lot of investors buy bonds and not stocks. You know exactly when you're getting paid. You know you're going to get, in the case of this bond, $50.25 every year. And you know you're going to get your money back at maturity, $1,000. It's guaranteed. It's backed by the collateral of this company. And if they go in default, they have to sell assets to pay you anyways. And if they don't have the assets to pay you, then they go bankrupt. But even in bankruptcy court, you get paid first. Common stockholders are at the end of the line. You are at the front of the line. That's the attractiveness of a bond. You know exactly what you're getting. If I went ahead and bought a Disney stock today, I have no idea what I'll be getting. Yes, Disney has a record of paying a certain amount of dividends over time. Yes, their stock has performed fairly well, but that's the past. I'm not guaranteed anything about the future. A bond, it's guaranteed. That's why a lot of our 401ks, a lot of our pension funds are partially, somewhat up to maybe 30, 40%, even maybe even more, invested in bond funds because the manager knows when the money's coming in and it's a lot secure. Where stocks, no idea. Now, granted, 5.25% is okay return. With inflation running around 2.5%, 3% now, you're not making much money, but it's guaranteed. Oh, Disney might go up 20% this year, but it also might go down 10% this year. Up and down, you never know what's going to happen. It's based on their performance, the economy, the market. Bond, it's guaranteed. That's the nice thing about that. So that's the basis for our discussion about investments tonight. Now, yes, you can put money in a savings account. Yes, you can buy real estate. Not many of us can, though. You can buy gold and silver. You can buy oil. You can buy a contract from oil. There's a lot of sophisticated type of investments. For on the whole, though, most of us in our retirement plans, most of us in our day-to-day investing buy stocks and bonds. That gets us started. You know, the key to teaching is to get the students engaged quickly at the beginning of a class, especially online. You're all blank out there. You're all dark. You might be falling asleep. You might be, oh, what's he doing? Oh, I guess I have to pay attention to him.
This quick, huh? This quick?
I'm sorry?
I'm like this quick. I was already waiting.
Good. But that's the key. And to us, investments is a popular topic. We might not have much money now, but eventually we will hopefully get some money and we'll invest it. Eventually we'll get a job, or a lot of us have a job where money is taken out of our paycheck to invest in our 401k, in our retirement plan. Investment is a part of money management in our life for the future. Very important. It gets a little technical, but if you keep it fairly simple and basic, and then you have money managers and you have retirement fund managers that are paid out of some of your holdings as part of a group in like a 401k or something. But to generally know how they work is a very important trait, a very important skill to have. You don't have to be Warren Buffett. You just have to know the basics. And that's what we're going to try to explain this evening. Before we get to that, let's take a couple looks. Let's take a look at one of our closest practicing to investments is our portfolios. Well, here's my portfolio as of June 26. This is a record for our assignment number 2. This is what I was looking for in assignment number 2. Here's my beginning portfolio at when we started class on June 12th. And here's the updated portfolio as of June 26. You're going to be doing the exact same thing again in assignment number 3 as of July 10th. Updating your portfolio to see how your investments has changed over time. As you can see, as of June 26, I lost, not much, $43. minus 0.04%, but I still lost. In that time spell, I lost money. I lost money in regards to the time value of money. It didn't go up, it went down. But also, so did our major markets. Remember, we talked about the major 3 markets that tell us generally overall the stock markets, how the markets are doing. The Dow Jones Industrial Index of 30 manufacturing stocks, the S&P 500 index of 500 stocks spread out across a whole different type of sectors: manufacturing, communications, transportation, technology, retail. And then the NASDAQ index of 2,500 stocks, to small to medium size, that are fairly new companies. So in regards to the Dow and the S&P, I did better than they did. Thank you. The NASDAQ has 2 important components that keep it always doing better these days. In the NASDAQ index is Apple and Amazon and Tesla of late. They're doing very well. Yes, Apple and Amazon are in the Dow index as well, but they make up a greater percentage of the holding in the NASDAQ index. Thus, as they do better, the whole index tends to trend better. But when somebody tells you, how'd you do to the market? When I tell you in assignment 3, compare your portfolio to the market performance, this is what I want to see. This is how you gauge how you're doing on your investments. What are my investments? Apple Computer, Bristol Myers, Merrick, and Disney. And you all have your own selections. But notice what I have done in this assignment number 2. I've taken the difference between my June 26 balance and my beginning balance and taken that difference and put it in an equation and divided that difference by my original value, and I get a percentage. I want to see that calculation going forward. I did the same thing for the market indexes. I took the difference between the Dow on June 26th and the Dow on June 12th, and I divided that difference by the original value on June 12th, and I got 0.23%. What you get when you do that calculation, you'll get 0.023. Then you just convert it to a percentage by moving the decimal point up 2 points, minus 2.3%. Same thing with the S&P 500. I took the difference between June 26th and June 12th and divided it by June 12th. There's the formula right there. This file is in the assignment 2 solutions file. Many of you have got this, but some of you are still having a little bit difficulty setting this up and seeing what it tells you. It gives you some information. Look at this and review it and see how I did it. Notice in NASDAQ, it's positive because the June 26th number is higher than the June 12th. Take that difference, divide by the June 12th number, I get a 1.76% delta change from June 26th to June 12th. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not breaking any records so far in my portfolio. Apple's gone up, Bristol Myers has gone up, Merrick and Disney down. The overall effect, I'm breaking even, almost. But this is how you gauge performance. Remember I said earlier in stocks, you get 2 things out of stocks. Since we're holding on to this stock for such a short term this summer, we won't be getting too many dividends from our holdings. That's one. But the second area is the appreciation, the capital gain over time. When we do decide to sell, how has our stock portfolio changed over that time? And that's what we're doing. After assignment number 3 next week, we're going to talk about why did Apple go up? Why did Bristol Myers go up? Why did Merrick go down? Why did Disney go down? Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I'll answer the question about Disney. Disneyland isn't open. Disney World isn't open. Disney cruise lines are not selling. ESPN has no NBA or Major League Baseball to show on TV, so people aren't watching ESPN. Can you imagine if NFL football doesn't go on this fall? The trouble that ESPN and the sports networks will be in? Oof. So because of that, a lot of investors have sold Disney stock. I don't want to be, Disney's not going to make any money this summer. There's no major motion pictures being announced. There's no ESPN to watch NBA and Major League Baseball. And there's no cruise lines and there's no Disneyland. Their revenue streams are on hold until this pandemic gets settled. So people have sold the stock. Remember, in stock, it's a buyer's and seller's market. If there's more people wanting to sell than buyers wanting to buy, the price will go down. Let me say that again. If there's more people wanting to sell Disney stock, all right, call up my broker. I got to sell. I got to sell. This Disney not doing anything this summer. I want to sell. And then your broker will go to the market and say, anybody want to buy Rick Hassey's stock? All quiet. All right. I guess if you want to buy it, I have to drop the price down to $109.10. Anybody want to buy it now? I'll buy it now. So the price drops because the market demands that drop because the supply and demand who wants to buy Disney stock is minimal. That's the United States stock market in one easy lesson. That's how it works. Now, if all of a sudden tomorrow it's announced by Merrick that we have a cure for the COVID-19 virus, I'm going to start making some money. Why? Because Merrick found the vaccine for the virus. Whoa, Merrick's going to be making some cash. And at the same time, the virus, we have a vaccine. Oh, that means there's going to be football this fall. That means I can go to Disneyland now without getting sick. That means I can go on a cruise line and not getting sick. Oh, people want to buy back into Disney. The stock will go up because there'll be more buyers than sellers. The price will go up to meet that demand of the buyers. That's the United States stock market. Now, it happens a million times a day, 100,000 times a second, a minute, every day. With technology, it's a fast-moving animal, but that's how it works. And we're taking a small little slice of that, a way of relating to this in our class in these portfolio questions that we do. So take note of that. Clean up your file if you need to. A lot of you, I like your own personal formats, which is fine, but you still have to show me how much it's changing and how the markets are changing. That needs to be included. Good. The other aspects of assignment number 2 was basically the definition of chapter 7 and 13. Chapter 7 and 13 are a form of bankruptcy, either liquidation or restructuring. What is the best? A lot of you preferred chapter 7. Some of you preferred chapter 13. But I just wanted to see that definition, and you all did pretty well on that. I give a lot of detail. Some of you didn't give very much detail, and I took a couple of points off for that. Remember, your files are returned to you in Blackboard in your Grade Center. If you go to Grade Center right now or go to the front page of your Blackboard, you'll see your cumulative average in class. Now, some of us have not seen me in our professor meetings this week, and we're now out of time to see me. If you participated in my professors' meetings of this week, which about 2/3 of you did, You got 100. 5% of your course grade, 100. That did wonders for some of your averages. If you did not participate in the professor meetings this week, you're going to get a 0. Even though it's 5%, that takes a little bite. So make sure you pay attention if you're not attending class to the videos and to the material in Blackboard for missing out on any potential grades that can help you with your average. All you had to do was make a meeting with me this week on Zoom for 5 minutes and you got 100 points. That was important. That's important not for me, but it helps your average. It's important for me that I was able to talk to you for 5 minutes and just make sure you're okay with the course and the technology and that sort of thing. So that's where that stands. Question number 2 was everybody did pretty well on that, $21,290.16, taking the payment over 48 months at 6%. And determining the amount of that value, calculate the loan amount is you're borrowing $21,290.16. And I gave you that step by step to see if you could do that either on a calculator or on a spreadsheet. About half did spreadsheet, half did calculator. The difference between spending and budget, spending plan and a budget plan, pretty much a no-brainer. You just gave me some difference or determination between a budget and a spending plan. The FICO score for a mortgage, what can you qualify for a mortgage for? I got all different types of answers, and that's okay. That's the way the market is. But I was looking to give me a FICO score that is makes sense about getting a mortgage and qualifying for a mortgage. Naturally, if you have a FICO score below 650, you're still gonna get a mortgage. You can get a mortgage. You just have to pay a lot more interest on that mortgage. And then I wanted you to get the median home value in the town you live in. For me in Claremont, the median home value is roughly around $700,000. And it has been holding steady. Now that might change a little bit throughout the rest of this year depending on the pandemic, but Claremont is a unique area because it has 2 stable bases. It has professors and college people who work at the Claremont colleges. They're not going anywhere. And they have retirees. Lots of retirement homes and people in Claremont. They're not going anywhere either. So that keeps the selling value of homes pretty stagnant. Now in other areas, that changes a little bit, especially in communities that have major employers or people go work downtown and those jobs get affected. Real estate prices can adjust rather quickly. But that's why I wanted you to tell me what the median price in your area, and it gives a good view of taking a picture of that, because real estate is a form of investment. And I was interested to see what you came up with. And then the stock portfolio question, and we just went over that. So that's assignment number 2 in the books. Grades are posted. We're in pretty good shape. And if you have any questions on that or concerns, I'll be sticking around after class tonight to answer any questions, or you can ask me a little bit more personally by coming to our office hours, excuse me, or just sending me an email or whatever, okay? But remember, keep track of your cumulative average. Grades are updated all the time. Make sure you understand where you stand in the course, and that's important, okay? All right. The basis of investing is to establish a goal. Establish a goal. All right. What do I want to invest for? All right. Well, I want to invest for retirement. Okay, that's a good goal. What's another investment goal? I want to get married and have money for my family. Great investment goal. What's another investment goal? I want to buy a house. I want to buy a new car. Here's a big investment goal for a lot of us, and ran my life for roughly about the first 10 or 15 years of me being out in the workforce. I don't want to run out of money. I want to be liquid. I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. Well, for many years of my life, I lived from paycheck to paycheck. And I hated that. I didn't like it. It was uncomfortable. Okay? That's an investment goal. So you write down on a piece of paper, or you write down on those forms we looked at last week. Why am I investing? And then the next question is, where's the cash going to come from? Where's it going to come from? Is it going to come out of my paycheck, and how much can I afford of that? If it does come out of my paycheck, is my employer going to match it? That's a nice thing to have. That's one of the nice things about working. Your employer matches how much you put into your retirement fund. Or will I take a second job? For many years, yours truly worked 2 jobs, especially when my family was young. I worked on the weekends. I worked certain nights of the week. And all that money I made went to my investments, went to the future. So how you obtain the money, a lot of us can't do that, have 2 jobs or that, because we have to take care of family. How you manage that goes back to budgeting and planning. How long will it take you to get the money to invest? Don't put pressure on yourself to be in a hurry. Oh, Professor Hasse says I got to put money in stocks and bonds and a 401k plan. Oh, better get going on that. Well, you're going to end up driving yourself nuts, and also you're going to limit your abilities of running your everyday lives. Be conservative, but also be fair. Oh, I can put $50 a paycheck into retirement. Okay, that's good. Nothing wrong with that. The key thing is you're putting $50 in. That's the key. So manage your budget, manage your planning to obtain the funds or make necessary the funds, but don't go crazy and hurt yourself or make yourself stressed because you're not investing much now. And the fourth method here is what we talked about earlier. How much risk are you willing to assume? Tell you a good story. When I was 30 years old, I was beginning to start getting some money extra to just feeding my dopey little babies and paying for rent in New York City. I was able to start having some extra money. And I started investing. Well, I was working in the investment business, so I had a pretty good knowledge of where to put my money, but I always would get phone calls, not back then emails, no emails back then, but I would always get phone calls from homeboys saying, hey, Rick, do I have an investment for you? These group of guys are starting up a house painting company, and they need some capital. How about putting in, and you'll get 10% of all the profits? Yeah, okay. No, thank you. Too risky. First of all, I knew these guys. They're homeboys. I wouldn't trust them with anything. But secondly, I don't want to lose the money that I have available to invest. I don't want to lose it. I want to be conservative. Yes, I'll buy a stock, but I want to keep it fairly conservative. I don't want to lose my money. I've worked too hard. I've done 2 jobs to have money now to invest, and I don't want to lose it. So the risk factor was very important to me. Now, for some of us, I have my son, 32 years old, no children. He's got a lovely wife, and she works. They live in Boston. They're investing money left and right because they don't have much expenses. Yeah, they have a house mortgage, but they don't have any children yet. They will pretty soon. But they've been putting a lot of money into investments. And in some of those investments, they're saying very conservative, like their father tells them to. But on the other hand, they have more money. They're able to take a little bit of a risk, invest in those companies that maybe are like startups in solar power. They've invested in SpaceX. They've invested in Tesla, companies that I would stay away from, but they can afford the risk. So it depends on your financial situation and also your family situation. If you're single, you don't have any financial responsibilities, you don't even probably need insurance. Oh, I got some extra money here to invest. But if you're a family, you have responsibilities to your parents or your siblings, you don't have much money to invest. So you have to gauge that. And when you do have money available, what's the risk you're willing to accept in that investment goal? That is huge. Continuing on in these investment goals. What's the future look like for you? One of the first things I've been told all my life by my grandfather, my father, my friends, my associates, Rick, have 6 months of your take-home pay in the bank before you start investing. 6 months. You put 6 months of your take-home pay into your savings account. Not earning much interest, but it's liquid. In case I lose my job, in case I get sick and can't go to work, in case my wife can't work, in case we have an earthquake, whatever. I have 6 months of living expenses covered. That was my personal goal, to protect myself from economic or personal conditions that could alter your investment goals. Now, other people are a lot different. Some people maybe keep 1 month, maybe 3 months. Me, I had 2 children. I kept 6 months in the bank at all times. Once I got to that 6-month level, then I started investing. And then take an honest assessment of your economic circumstances. You know, if I worked in let's make a good industry now. Oh, if I worked in retail now, if I have a job in retail now for a major retail company, is my future very positive? Hard to say. A lot of retail jobs have been lost. Every day or every week I read in the newspaper of retail companies declaring bankruptcy. Doesn't mean they're closing. Bankruptcy, they mean they're going to be laying off a lot of people. Right now, the education business is a little shaky, to be perfectly honest with you. We have a lot of faculty at the University of Laverne kind of getting a little nervous saying, geez, student enrollment's going to be down? Are they going to need me to teach? Oh, yes, I might teach 1 class or 2, but my course load of 4 or 5, that means I'm not going to get paid as much. So you have to take a look at the industry you're in and what's happening in the economy around you to make sure you have a pretty good handle on the future of your revenue stream, your income, to fund investment goals. And the final one is, and this goes back, and I'm not saying I'm the Wolf of Wall Street, please don't. It goes back to, though, I took a second job when I was younger. First of all, if I did that now, I'd kill myself. But if I took a second job when I was younger, so all that money went to my investment. That was my sacrifice. I wasn't home a couple of nights a week. I worked all day Saturday. That was a sacrifice I made so I could have additional money to invest. Now, for a lot of us now, the sacrifice would be, my sacrifice is raising my children. And that's an excellent sacrifice, I would say. So are you willing to make a sacrifice? Or what sacrifices do you have to make in order to achieve security, stability, and at the same time, maybe have some investment money in the future? So these 7 points are things that you personally should take a look at. Ask yourself the questions. Am I liquid? Do I have enough money saved in case something happens? And where do I want to invest? And why do I want to invest it? I'm not even thinking about retirement now. I'm 25, 28, 30 years old. Retirement, I'll worry about that in 15, 20 years. Doesn't hurt to worry about that now. But I want to buy a house for my children. I want to get into a good school district. I want to have a comfortable home life. I don't want to worry about bills all the time. That's probably, for a lot of us, that's the main priority. Retirement, okay, I'll deal with that later. That's why I'm getting a business degree from the University of Laverne, or getting a bachelor's degree from the University of Laverne. That will give me money down the road. So these are points, and very important points, that you look at to invest. And this PowerPoint, by the way, is in Blackboard in class number 3. But these are good points and things that I always looked at when I was beginning my investment life. And I knew right off the bat that if I want to put money in the investments, and I was in the investment business, I had to have a second job. So these are things you have to think about. And also have the common sense of saying, I can't do this now. So don't get all beat up about it. Mr. Hassey says I should start investing. I can't invest now. I don't have the money. That's okay. It's in the future. It's out there. You'll get there. That's okay too. Okay. Good. Another point. Apple computer. Apple computer. You know, if you mention investments to basically any average citizen, investing, what do you first think of? Well, I usually think of course, I'm in investing, so I'm kind of biased in this. But for most people, I went to my next door neighbor. My next door neighbor. I don't even know what he does for a living, but that's okay. The other day I was saying, hey, are you taking a look at your investments during this time? And he said, yeah. And he said, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, and Tesla. I said, whoa, wow. Why those 4? They're in the news every day. I go on Instagram. They're all over the place. They're on CNN. They're on the business channels. I read them in the newspaper. They're doing well. They're getting publicity. I guess I should start investing in them. I tell my broker, get me in a mutual fund and invest in those companies. So for many of us, investing is just like going to the grocery store. You know, what are the common rules when you go to a grocery store? Don't go into a grocery store hungry or thirsty, because then you're going to spend more money. I got to get a soft drink. I got to get beer. I got to get a donut. I got to get a bagel. Ribs. I got to get ribs. I got to get chips. If you went in and you weren't so hungry, you'd get probably a little bit smarter foods. Investments are the same thing. Don't get sucked in by these high-profile companies. Yes, it's nice to be able to buy them, but they're very expensive. Apple's at $400. Amazon's at $3,000. Tesla's at $500. They're expensive. Most of us cannot afford that, even in going into mutual funds. So don't get sucked in by all the PR. Be reasonable. Get into a 401k that invests in maybe a sector, communications, technology. Get into a 401k, then you tell the managers, I want some of my money in a transportation fund, in a manufacturing fund, whatever. Or you pick which I should be in. Now, for most 401ks, you have to pick the general selection. The manager or broker will isolate and pick the actual companies to invest in through their broker, but you have to give them the general roundabout of where you want to go. That's by law. That's the difference between a 401k and a private pension fund. Private pension fund, you have somebody making all the decisions. You just give them the money. In a 401k, because it's a cheaper cost, you don't get that kind of service. So you have to kind of point them in the direction where you want to invest. That's a very important quality. And a lot of times our HR offices do not explain that to us very well. You know, Rick, you got to tell me where you want to invest. I've been in the fund for 5 years. You're telling me this now? Well, we did tell you, we sent you the information. So the broker's just been randomly putting the money at wherever. Most of it's in money market funds. Well, I'm not making much money there. You got to pay attention. getting some messages from students. No problem, Cheryl. Thank you. You could have just hit a chat button, but that's okay. And then I have another student, Cerise. I'm not going to send him under the bus, but he's in my office hours Zoom account, the office hours. He's not in our class hours. Cerise is in for a surprise. Okay. But that's the key thing about stocks and bonds. Have somewhat of an idea what you want to do. Have some simple goals, not fancy goals. And if you really are intimidated by the process, and I know after talking to some of you in our professor meetings, some of you go, Mr. Hasse, I've never looked at this before in my life. This is something new. Well, that's good. There's nothing wrong with having people help you. Ask the questions. You know, one of the simplest things is go to your human resources office. Somebody there knows about your retirement funds. Ask them. Or ask them to give you information on who to contact at the 401k manager. It's that simple. But the key thing is you're investing. That's the key. You're investing. That's the most important thing. Cerise, you went to the wrong account there, buddy. All right. It's break time. Let's take a break. Had a good start about explaining investments, stocks and bonds. We'll take a little bit more of that analysis when we come back. Also, when we come out of break, there'll be a poll this week. I'd like you to take a little poll and make a selection in this Zoom poll of our class. And so you'll see that as we come out of break.
Professor?
Yes.
I have to go to the VA in LA. Can I email you? It's Isaiah over here.
Hi, Isaiah.
I have to run to the VA, the ER over there in LA. So
sure.
Yeah, I'll definitely.
Don't worry about it. You remember, I'm recording this session. When you get home tomorrow, you can watch the recording. You and I have to talk a little bit about your situation.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about that maybe tomorrow or Friday. You can get a hold of me, and we'll go from there. That's no problem. Just we'll have this video, and I'll catch up with you later. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Don't worry about it. Okay. So when we come out of break, we'll take this little poll, and we'll talk more about investments and talk about assignment number 3 for next week, which is entitled Investments. So I'll see you back here about 10 minutes after the hour, about 7:10. We'll see you then. Okay, thanks, guys. Okay, we're back. We had a little poll this evening. Huge turnout, 5 students, and 1 still didn't vote, but I don't know who you guys are, but that's all right. This is not for a grade. It's just a fun little thing I like to do every now and then to just gauge the students and how you feel about certain things, and also it's a fun little thing to break the monotony, or I shouldn't say that, monotony, the rather lecture of the class. The question of our poll this week is, what is your favorite investment vehicle? And 2 of you of the 4 said real estate. There it is right there. 1 of you said bond, and 1 of you said savings. And I think those are all fairly good answers. I'm quite surprised about real estate. That takes a little bit of wherewithal, and that's pretty impressive. No one said 401k. No one said stock. Jewelry, you'd be surprised. Gold, silver, other metals, or other assets. But real estate is a very popular one. You could get, instead of buying houses, you can get into real estate investment trusts, funds. You can invest in real estate that way. But most of us like to invest in real estate to rental properties, vacation properties, whatever. So that's our poll this evening, which is kind of a fun thing to do. And we try to do this over the next few weeks, or our next 2 classes. But our favorite investment vehicle. For this class, Business 493 on this given night, it's real estate. Anybody knows any good real estate deals? Please let me know. All right, thank you. All right, let's go back to our lecture. Is my mic working? Yes, it is. One of the things we were talking earlier about investment and our goals and understanding what priorities we have to set in our investments is the risk factor. We talked about risk. And to define that risk factor a little bit more detail, you have inflation risk, interest rate risk, business failure risk, and market risk. In addition to that, you have your own personal risk, your own personal situation. But these are of the big four. Inflation risk. During of something that none of us have assumed much or have had over the last 15 years, inflation. Inflation has been pretty non-existent. Interest rate risk. People who pay us interest, like in the form of bonds or preferred stock, may increase or may change those payments because of high interest rates or low interest rates. Again, just like in inflation, this is a thing of the past. There's not high, ERA hasn't been high years, going on now 13 years. We've had low interest. The fiscal monetary policies of our government, both Democrat and Republican, have to keep the interest rates low, make money cheap. Now, for investment purposes, that's not very good. That's why a lot of people invest in stocks, in real estate. All right, because in stocks, in real estate, yes, inflation does play a little bit more part of that, but it's more on performance, market value. Where bonds and preferred stocks, and let me explain that, preferred stocks are common stocks that that have guaranteed dividends. If I buy Disney stock, it's not a guaranteed dividend. It's called a common dividend. Disney determines every quarter if they're going to pay me or not. I own Ford Motor Company. Don't ask me why. It's a family thing. And I just got a letter from them a couple weeks ago. Mr. Hassey, sorry, we're not paying you a dividend as of June 30th. We're keeping that money to invest in new opportunities within the company. No problem. As long as those opportunities turn into increased stock value, I'm happy. But preferred stock are stocks that you have to pay the dividend. It's part of the issuance. You buy the stock for the dividend. What type of companies are those? Mainly utility companies. Utility companies that are regulated, water and power, Pacific Gas and Electric, the gas company, Southern California Edison. They pay preferred stock dividends because why? They're regulated. The government or the regulation committees or institutions tell them how much money they can make, profits. They have to regulate their fees. Why? Because they want to make their power and water available to all citizens. So they're regulated. Because they're regulated, they pay preferred stock to acquire capital because if they're regulated, how much money can they make? In the regulated rates are money is set aside so they can pay out dividends on preferred stock. Business failure risk, the chance of the companies that you invest in or lend money to fail. It happens. Radio Shack. That's another one. Blockbuster. Lots of failures these days. And then market risk. The market risk is being in the overall market. That's why we track the market indexes. If those start dropping, there's higher market risk in the market. Right now, there's fairly low risk in the market. Even though we're in a pandemic, companies aren't doing very well, but the stock market is the only place to put your money to get a decent return. Can't buy to put it in savings accounts. Interest rates are low for bonds. Yes, you could buy gold a little bit. Real estate in certain parts of the country is flat, even going down. So the market risk for stocks right now is pretty low. But it changes as the economy changes. One of the reasons why I'm not doing too much investing today is I'm waiting to see what happens on November 3rd, the election. Who's going to be the next president? With the new, if it's a Democrat, probably Mr. Biden. There'll be a whole new way, whole new strategy, whole new policy. If it's Mr. Trump, he gets reelected, it's the same situation we have now, trying to limit the markets with tariffs and that sort of thing. So I'm waiting to see who's going to be our next president before I start making any major decisions about moving money. That's market risk. So those are risk factors you need to be aware of if you're looking at investments. And what type of income do we get off investments? Well, we've mentioned it earlier, dividends and interest. Interest you get from bonds, savings account, money market accounts. Dividends you get from stock funds or stocks. You can get interest on municipal bonds, besides not only corporate bonds like the one we looked at earlier, but municipal bonds. I don't know if any of you have been on the Laverne campus much. You probably have been, since you're Kappa students. Is over the last 3 or 4 years, the campus has changed dramatically as far as the look to it. New buildings. We converted a dorm into a offices and classrooms. We've built excuse me, we've built a student campus center, student union. We've built new dormitories. We've added to some buildings. A lot of building going around. And how was that funded? Bonds. The university went into the municipal bond market. What's a municipal bond? The interest is tax-free to the person who lends you the money. It's a municipal bond. Why is the University of Laverne a municipal bond? Because it's a not-for-profit. It's just like a government. And we were able to go into the bond market, borrow a certain amount of money, and I won't tell you what that was. No, I'll tell you what that was, $40 million. We borrowed $40 million, and that $40 million went to spruce up the new buildings, put some new investments into the campus, make it a little bit better to go to school and to take classes at the University of Laverne, which is good. And we pay that money back with the tuition we charge you, and we pay that money back every year in the form of interest payments, coupon payments to the bondholders. Hopefully the money that we invested in new buildings is going to generate revenue through enrollment, through new students, through better programs, and we'll be able to pay that off and the university is better off. That's a tax-free. So if I bought a $1,000 University of Laverne bond, which I thought about at one time doing, but I thought, nah, I'm not going to do that. If I buy a $1,000 University of Laverne bond and I get my interest payment, my coupon payment on that bond, I do not have to report that as ordinary income. It's tax-free. Whereas if I lend my money to General Motors Corporation in a corporate bond, they send me the interest payment, the coupon payment. I have to report that as ordinary income on my taxes because General Motors is a for-profit organization. University of Laverne is a not-for-profit organization. That's why it's called a municipal bond. So there's all different types of investments, and sometimes, and I don't want to get into all the types because it makes your head spin, but it basically goes around what our poll talked about tonight: stocks, bonds, real estate, savings accounts, other assets like personal things like jewelry, real estate, even automobiles, things that you think are going to gain value into the future. So these are all of them generate some type of return. Now, stocks and bonds and savings accounts and that sort of thing generate return as dividends, interest, payments. But if you invest in an automobile, you're not going to get a check from that car as far as owning it. But you're in that investment for the long-term capital appreciation. I would love to have a 1967 red Mustang convertible these days. That car's worth a lot. So these are the forms of investments. And the last thing we're going to talk about, and we've already talked about this in some shape or form, is we invest for income, growth, and liquidity. So anybody talk to you about, well, why are you in investments? Well, why have all of a sudden is investments a big deal for you? Well, I'm in it to earn some extra income. I'm earning in it for growth, so I have money in the future, like for retirement or for college education or whatever. And I'm in it for liquidity, to be able to cash it out and get the cash. All right? That's the bottom line of investments. You go through the protocol of what we talked about earlier as far as determining your goals, how much money you can invest, your situation, what's your timeline, where you're going to put the money and why and for what for. And your goal is to get paid dividends or interest. Your goal is to have that investment increase in value over time. And your goal is to eventually sell that investment to get the cash. Investments are complete. That's the important thing about this. So that's one of the things that's the bottom line when it comes to investment. Income, growth, liquidity. And in your portfolios you're doing for this class, there's no income because we're holding it only for 10 weeks, very little income as far as dividends. We're trying to grow as fast as possible over the 10 weeks of our course. And then what we're doing on the last week of class, we're selling it. Liquidity. What are we going to get for it when we sell it the last Friday of class? It's just like that in the real world, just on a longer scale. Maybe 50 years, 40 years, 10 years. You set that timeline. And that's the nature of investments. So we're going to talk about investments in our assignment number 3 for this week. I want to show you this. In your Blackboard, and I hope you guys have been paying attention and looking at Blackboard. It can give you a lot of information. Also, our YouTube playlist. There's a couple of great videos in our YouTube playlist this week about stocks and bonds that define them. Pretty good videos. So if I go to the assignment section, I'll now see a new account. Assignment number 3, investments. 2 files, a PDF and a Word file. You've seen this all before. And you can download these files and prepare your work and post this work to this file folder for 20% of your grade by next Wednesday. I give you to next Wednesday at midnight because there's no class next week. And here's the previous assignments with their solutions. Assignment number 2 and assignment number 1. So our task this week is assignment number 3. And here's what that looks like. And let's go over it just briefly. So many files open. I hope I can find it. Oh, not there. One moment. There it comes. So assignment number 3 follows the similar pattern. By the way, just to make you feel better, this is our last assignment in class. There's no more assignments after this. Your final grade will be a case paper or a paper that I'd like you to do. I'll give you the topics and the selection of the topics next week, and it'll be due the following week or the last week of class. You'll have 2 weeks to do it. And so this is the final assignment in our class. And it takes into account investments. And here's some questions that we talked earlier in that PowerPoint about what do you consider a low risk investment with very little risk, very little chance of losing money. Give an example. And give an example of what you consider a high risk investment. A great investment, but boy, there's a chance that I could lose my money. Each one of you are going to have different ideas about risk, and that's why I like these questions, because it gives me your anticipation or your interpretation of risk. Low risk investment, what is that? And a high risk investment. Good question. Thank you. What is a dividend? Give an example of a dividend. Have any of your companies in your portfolio, since we started this portfolio for the last month, have any of your companies paid you a dividend? Now, if you go into Yahoo Finance and look at historical prices, you can see in those historical prices going back in time, you can see when your company maybe paid a dividend. Take a look at that and see if your company in your portfolio has paid any dividends since June 12th. I don't think too many. And the second part of question 2 is, what is a coupon payment? We talked about that earlier. A coupon payment is a payment on a bond. Give an example of a coupon payment. And then another update of your portfolio as of this Friday, July 10th. Like to see the spreadsheet, not a PDF, a spreadsheet showing the change in your prices and the percentage change of your portfolio, like I talked about earlier, and the percentage change of the 3 market indicators. One last thing, and this is going to be our discussion next week. I'd like you to go into Yahoo Finance when you're looking up your prices of your stocks on Friday, or as of Friday. Find the beta of your company. The beta. The beta is a number about risk, and we're going to talk about that in our off week next week. I'm going to have a video about that in our off week next week. Beta. What is beta? Why do they give us that number as far as our stock prices of our companies? I'd like you to locate the beta of your company and include it in another column alongside of your stock. Give me the beta of your company. Now, some of you have some small, rather small size companies. You might find that the beta for your company would be NA, not available or not applicable. That's okay. Don't worry about that. But if you have a beta for your company, I'd like to see this in your spreadsheet next week. And now a lot of you will forget that, and I'll take points off. So remember that. In addition to updating your portfolio and the market changes, find the beta of your company, and in the prior question, find if they've had any dividend payments thus far, only in the time period of our portfolio. And we'll discuss this beta next week in class. And then the final question to get us ready for our next class, where we talk about insurance. Insurance. Give me, and I don't want you to give me too many technical personal things, but generally speaking, give me an example of an insurance policy that you have. Car, life, health. What's the type of insurance? Is it term or annuity? What's the period cover? What is it insuring? What's the risk protection? So give me one example of insurance that many of you have. Now, for most of you, auto insurance comes to mind. And so for many of you, probably health insurance. And for some of you, maybe life insurance. Some of you, renter's insurance, home insurance. Any type of insurance you have, answer those couple questions about that. That gets us into the thinking mode of our next class on July 22nd. Insurance. And it's talked about in chapter 6, the next time we meet. So that's our assignment and our last assignment in this class. Hooray! For next week, due at midnight next Wednesday. Cool. All right, let me see if I got any other open items, but okay. We have a class of 11, and we're down to 5. Wow, I feel lonely tonight. I'm speaking into a dark void. Cecilia, you out there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. June, you out there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oliver, you out there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening. It makes me feel appreciated. All right. That's my lecture for this evening. Investments. Great PowerPoint. The key thing in investments, as we talked about, establish a goal, establish a plan, whatever that might be, small or large, it doesn't make any difference. And then follow through with understanding what type, where are you putting that money? Is it a stock? What is a stock? Is it a bond? Is it real estate? Understanding the particulars. You don't have to be an expert, just understanding where is it and who's managing it. That's important. I'm going to stick around after I say adios for anybody who has any questions or concerns. And I'll see you all on the internet next week with a little video in our off week. And any questions during the course of the next week on your assignment number 3, feel free to let me know. Remember, we have office hours every Monday from 3 to 5 p.m. So thank you, everybody. Also, we're getting to the point now we got to start thinking about fall schedules. I don't know if you've started thinking about fall classes. And so if any of you have any questions about classes, I have some experience with the University of Laverne over 30 years. If you have any questions or issues about knowing what a class is all about, be more than happy to answer any information or answer any questions you may have about that. Okay, everybody, have a great week. Be well. Thank you. You're all doing well, and I'll see you all on the internet next Wednesday and Thursday. Adios.
Thank you, Professor.
Thanks, Cerise. Bye, Brenda.
Sir, I just had a quick question. For the
Yes, Cecilia.
beta number,
Yeah.
do you want us to make like a new column?
Yeah, just put in a new column and call it beta, and then put in the beta number that you locate.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. Thank you, Cecilia. And we are off.